Alright, hey guys, we're going old school today. We're going to do something that is kind of fallen out of fashion with armor building when you're doing weathering, and that's dry brushing. Now back in the old days, when we used to dry brush, it was always oils. In fact, this Grimbacher, this one, these old ones, this one here, all these old buggers right here. No, you can't even see it. They're not in film. They're not in. Oh, they're not even in the screenshot. Well, let's change that. Back to what I was saying. Back in the old days, all we used were oils, and these oils right here, they're probably 20 plus years old, if not older in some of them. This one right here, I bet you this one goes back to the early 80s. So anyway, as you can see, I haven't used a lot of them, and oils have their place, especially when you're doing filters. I love oils for filters. For dry brushing, I've kind of transitioned more to acrylics, water bases. We didn't used to use water base back in the old days because, quite honestly, there wasn't very many good water base paints available. It was Humbrol or Testors, and they were all enamels. So basically, what we're going to do is this puppy has got a coat of gloss on it. This is my M103, and we're going to highlight some of the grill work here, and we're going to just show you some of the things you can do with an acrylic. Now we've chosen a slightly lighter color. In this point, it is yellow olive, Vallejo yellow olive, and a little bit of olive green. I don't like to put whites in my colors because they make them look gray. If you put a yellow tint on it, it lightens it up and still keeps the vibrancy. So what we've got it here, right out of the bottle, in a palette. Just load your brush up like that, just a little bit like that. Taking a cloth, get most of the paint off. Yeah, I know you waste a lot of paint, but dry brushing is exactly what it is. You dry brush. Just a little bit of paint. Catch the highlights, use a very light, subtle hand. Remember, less is more. Just scrub it off, and it may take 2 or 3 goes on it until you actually start seeing something, and that's exactly how you want it to do. It's just like painting figures. You want nice, light build up. You don't want a real big, massive, oh wow, that's really quite strong. It's all about subtlety, and it's all about layering and building up the colors. Now remember, back in the old days, you'd be using, yellows and browns and grays and just a whole plethora of colors. Just like, it was unbelievable. Like every earth tone in your box you'd be using. But now more of what we're doing, I'm using this for, is more of just some subtle, I don't really want to call it, it's highlighting, it's weathering, it's what's that term that the Spaniards came up with? I can't remember. When you're painting specific colors, much lighter color. I think Adam Wilder was one of the guys that came up with it. It's not really one of my favorite painting techniques, and the name of it escapes me right now. I'm sure somebody will I'll remember by the time this video is done, or someone can say, hey, it's that, in the comments section. What the hell was that called? Huh. Anyway, can't remember. You know what I mean. And see right down here, I didn't clean my brush off that much, and I hit it with just a much heavier color concentration, much lighter. See, back in the old days, you take this right up to a person would use a pure white on some of these. And it'll just jump right out at you. Like, wow, okay, that's pretty heavy. I remember some kits, my God, they'd almost be they'd have all these white highlights jumping out right on top of you under a dark gray green base or something. So the thing of it is that you want to be subtle with it, and we will pick it up. So I'm just showing you here, this is just the first step, guys. First step is a very similar, just slightly warmer, lighter color of your base coat. And then we'll add a little bit more yellow, probably Iraqi sand, and we'll bump it up so it's just a little bit more contrast. Well, that was brilliant. I've been yakking for 5 minutes and I didn't turn the record button. So we'll start over again. We've added some Iraqi sand here. We've got our base color green there. We're just going to pull off a little bit there, and we're going to mix it right on there just to give ourselves a nice color here, and then we'll just start doing our dry brushing. I've already done this deck once already, so we'll just pick up some little heavier Iraqi sand and just hit the highlight points like the handholds and like that. So that's where you can really see the details popping out. And I remember that painting technique was called modulation painting. And something like this, what we're going to represent here is something that's maybe been sitting in barracks for months, and maybe the engine started up 2 or 3 times in that time and it hasn't really gone on the field, but there's going to be a little bit of paint wear, not a lot. The reason I'm doing this is because it's such a dark green, dark green. I just want to lighten it up a bit, and I get a little heavy back here, but we'll hide a lot of this with the mud effects that we're going to be putting on this tank. So right now what we're doing is, remember what we're doing, we're distressing paint. We're adding weathering by distressing paint. And some of the guys you see when they're doing their, some of the fellows on their World War II stuff, when they're doing German armor, they just get those things just beat to snot. I mean, artistically, I think it's just amazing. The only problem is that you need to think about operational lives of German armor post D-Day. On the Western Front, it could be a matter of hours, weeks, months at the most. I remember one article about the last batch of King Tigers that were dropped for shipment, and it was a week. It was like 3 days by the time they hit the ground, and by the time the U.S. Army was pushing it off the road with the bulldozer. So you got to keep that kind of stuff in mind, guys. Where was the tank? What was it doing? And put everything in context, especially your weathering. Your weathering has to be in context. So what we're going to do here is we'll finish dry brushing the rest of this, and if it's a little bit too much, we're not going to worry, because we're going to add a filter to this after I get the dry brushing done. That'll help alleviate any of the little heavy, little light spots in the flats.